Hey, how are you? So I was talking to Ryan Rosillo, and he was saying that he's boys with Jimmer Fredette, and if I ever wanted to film something with him, he could reach out. Well, he reached out, I got Jimmer's contact, and now I'm heading to his apartment to film a 30-minute exclusive interview. I will not be offering him 3 beers and a Fanta. He's Mormon. Hey, how are you? We're here with Jimmer Fredette, the star of the Shanghai Sharks. Many of his Chinese fans know him as the Lonely Master. A small circle of fans in the U.S. know him as the Mormon Megalodon. The Mormon Megalodon is pulling out all the stops. Coined that.
Yes, I've heard that.
myself.
I've heard that several times.
So you're on the tail end of your third season in the CBA. Would you say like you've finally gotten used to living in China?
Definitely more. It's being my third year. I kind of got the gist of it. I mean, obviously the first year was a little different, a little nerve-wracking coming over here. Didn't know what to expect. And the second year I felt a lot more like a veteran. And now the third year, it just feels like, real easy. I love Shanghai. It's a great city.
When you first moved here, what was the hardest part of living in China, the hardest part to figure out?
I mean, obviously the language barrier. I can't speak to anybody. Yeah. That's difficult. But, for me, I was just trying to, basically find where I could eat, what food spots I wanted to be at. And then from that point on, just kind of explore and try to embrace myself in the culture as much as I possibly could.
Were you assigned like a full-time translator
at
first?
Yeah, for sure. We had two my first year. So the first year we had a translator for off the court. So basically he would do anything that had to do with my apartment if my heating didn't work, you know what I mean, and get us cars to places and anything that we needed, we used him. And then we had a translator for on the court for basketball stuff that would translate coach or translate the players and new basketball terminology and could, relate to us. So we have both. And then the same thing my second year, but this year we only have one, so he does both. Okay. And it's a lot more on him this year than the other guys for sure.
Yeah, I know you guys have a new coach this year and he's Chinese. Does he speak fluent English or
no he barely speaks any English. Wow. We can't communicate too well unless we have our translator there.
Does he kind of let you do your own thing on the court, or are there times when he's kind of yelling at you in Chinese like, oh, you have to do this, and you're like, I have no idea what you're saying?
For sure. Most of the time they kind of let us do what we want to do. Yeah. Both, in practice and kind of on the court and stuff like that. Obviously, if there's something that he needs to say, he'll bring Johnson out. That's that's our translator's name, and he'll just be like, hey, tell him to do this or whatever. But he's pretty good at kind of just letting us do our thing. And me and Luis Scola, who's on the team this year, are pretty good at understanding the game plan and kind of what he wants us to do anyway. So he's not constantly yelling at us or anything, but he definitely gets after the Chinese guys.
Whenever you don't know what he's saying, I recommend just saying "dui."
Yeah, exactly. I do. I just
drop a "dui" bomb.
Yeah, I'm just like "dui." Yeah, shish, yeah.
That will keep them happy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they mostly, like I said, they mostly keep me doing my own thing and let me do my own thing. They're just like, hey, just shoot the ball, please.
What about the Chinese players on your team? How many of them can speak somewhat fluent English?
Yeah, I would say about half of them I can really understand pretty well, and they can understand me and actually hold a conversation. And then about half of them not very well. They can understand, hey, how are you, in few basketball terms and stuff like that. But if I was to try to have a conversation with it, would be difficult. But I'm lucky because I feel like in Shanghai it's a little bit more international. Some of the guys actually know more English than not, which is nice. I've talked to a few guys that have played with guys that he's like, literally no one speaks English, yeah. So I need to have the translator for everybody.
No, you are very lucky being in Shanghai. I mean, Especially when it comes to food. You mentioned that there is really good foreign food here.
Very good.
But I heard a story. I don't know if it was Tracy McGrady or someone when he was out in China. He literally only went to KFC because he was playing for some random team in a third-tier city where that was his only option for Western food.
Definitely. It happens to me when we go to other cities sometimes. Some of the cities that we play in. My go-to is usually Pizza Hut. That's what I normally get if they have it.
The Pizza Huts out here are fancy.
Very fancy. It's like a restaurant. You go in there and they got a booth and all this stuff. And so I've been to a couple of them that were fancy, but then I try to get them delivered. If I feel like the food's not great or if I'm sick of eating what they have, on the third or fourth day of a road trip, I'm like, I need something different. I asked Johnson, hey, let's get some Pizza Hut, and usually they have one in those cities at least.
So obviously, I'm sure you've come to learn China can be a very weird place.
Definitely.
What's kind of like the weirdest thing you've either seen or a situation you've been involved in, or it could even be like a food that you've been like forced to eat?
For sure. There's several things. One thing that I can't get used to, or I've seen a couple of times, are just like people, especially, little kids, or, just going to the bathroom, like on the side of the street. And I've seen it on the side of the street. I've seen it in the train station. I've seen it in the subway, that type of stuff.
Slit pants
Yes.
instead of diapers.
Yes, exactly.
So instead of having to change a diaper, you just open up the pants.
You open up your pants and you just go.
Hold them over a trash can.
And you just go. And
you have a young daughter now, right?
I do.
Sometimes you wow, it'd be a lot easier if I could just hold her over a trash can and not have to change her diaper.
I was like, that's a great idea. I mean, we should bring that to the U.S. You know what I mean? Like, just have bathroom stations or something. You know what I mean, for little kids.
Yeah, but I mean, it is place. Like sometimes
it's just different.
Yeah, it has happened. Like people will sometimes do it on like the floor of the subway, and it's like, whoa.
I've seen that before, and you're just like, whoa, wait a second, that's a little much. So that was interesting and just a little different. Some of the food, obviously, I went to a place over. It was in Fujian. Yep. And we stay at a Chinese hotel, and they said they had the best Chinese buffet, in all of Fujian. Yep. And I was excited, I was good, and it was great. There was like 50 tables of just buffet, and there wasn't a ton of it that I was real appetized, but I saw one thing. It was a full alligator, basically. They had the head, they had the arms, the legs, and the tail, and then on a wooden block was raw alligator right on top of it. And
they were eating it raw.
They were eating it raw.
Alligator sushi. Wow.
Yeah, no, I had a picture of it, and it was I had to show everybody back home, and it was funny because the whole head was right there. You know what I mean? It had like the little thing that was closing its mouth and everything, and it was just it was definitely odd.
Yeah, apparently in some Walmarts in China you can buy some alligator meat.
Jeez, that's crazy. Honestly, I'd be a little bit more adventurous with my food eating if I didn't have to worry about playing in a game. If I tried a food and all of a sudden I honestly did get sick or something like that, I couldn't play in a game, everyone would be like, well, why'd you try that? You know what I mean? So I would be a little bit more adventurous if I was on like a vacation and a week or something like that. I'd try some of that stuff. Wouldn't bother me, but yeah, I just try to steer clear if I can, just because of that reason.
What did your wife think about China when she came out? Does she usually come out for like 1 month each season?
Yeah, it's usually this year was a little bit longer, about a month and a half, which was great.
Yeah.
And she loves Shanghai, actually. You know what I mean? She sees some difficulties with living in China. She doesn't love not having a car. She's a kind of a country girl, so she wants the space and everything. So she doesn't love that it's just all city everywhere, big buildings everywhere, and everything. But she loves a lot of the food that's here. She really enjoys the sights. I mean, she loves bringing Little West, my girl, to Disneyland.
Okay.
They probably went there 6 times when they were here, just because the West just wanted to see the characters and hang out and everything. And it's so easy to get there with the subway.
Now remember, kids, only ducks can poop outside. Humans gotta use the toilet. You can't drag me away in front of all these kids. Do you realize how traumatizing that would be? Sorry for just trying to help, dude.
So, I mean, there was a lot of positives that she really likes, and she just likes the city of Shanghai itself, for sure.
Back when she gave birth to your first daughter, that was during the playoffs of your first season, right?
It was.
And you flew back to the U.S. Obviously, you wanted to be there for the birth of your first child.
For sure.
Did she ever consider giving birth in China? I know they do have some Western hospitals. Yeah. Or was she like, absolutely not?
Yeah, she said absolutely not. Yeah, okay, she was like, absolutely not. So that's why the first year was the hardest for me, as far as being away from her, because she came over in October and she left early November, and then I didn't get to see her again pretty much that whole season, and until the Chinese New Year break for a couple of days, and then until I came back. So that was pretty tough, but I understood. I mean, she was her first child. She didn't want to chance anything.
It makes sense.
She wanted to make sure that she was with her, American doctors that she knew and she, trusts and everything. And she was having quite a bit of doctor's appointments at that point and everything. So I didn't obviously blame her or anything like that. Yeah. She wanted to be home. I wanted to make sure that she was comfortable. I'm not the one having the baby, so I'm like, hey, it's your choice, whatever you want to do. And so it worked out well, but it worked
out well for you. It didn't work out well for the Sharks. A A little backstory: Jimmer missed one game of the playoffs, and I think we lost that game by 40 points.
Yeah. Honestly, I was amazed by the support that all the Chinese people gave me, even to go back and make sure that I was there for it. Like, I didn't get one bad comment like on Weibo or WeChat or anything like that saying, oh, you missed the game, like, I'm mad at you. Whereas in the US, I feel like there would have been some people that have been like, why did you miss the game, like, it's, you know what I mean, or whatever. Just some people that would say that. And here there was nothing of that. They were supportive, and then they're like, just get back as quickly as you can. And I was able to come back. So I mean, I flew home for the game, for the birth of Wes, and then she was born at like 12 p.m. or I can't remember, like on a Tuesday or something like that, and I had to leave the hospital at 3 p.m. Wow. So I just barely saw the birth because I had my flight booked and everything coming back. So I was there for 3 hours, got on the plane, left, came back, got into Shanghai at 6 a.m. in the morning, the day of game 2, and I had to play that night.
Did you manage to sleep on the flights?
A little bit. I slept on the flights some, you know what I mean? Not amazing sleep, but I was able to sleep some, and got here, just stretched my legs out, tried to get prepared, and then played that night. So it was.
And I think we won.
We did win that night.
Your first game
we
back.
did.
Yeah.
We won that night.
Holy shit!
So it was like it was the craziest 72 hours of my life, like just exhausted after that. You know what I mean? Just that night I was just done.
I think anytime I've gone back to the States, it's been at least for like a week and a half or 2 weeks.
For sure.
Done just like a day.
Yeah, no, it was difficult.
I read an article, like maybe this was last year, and he was kind of like asking what you do for fun. You mentioned one of the things is sometimes just riding the subway.
For sure.
What are some of like the other things, I guess, that you do when you're not playing basketball out here?
Yeah, I mean, not a ton. Besides, like, I just kind of explore the city. So I'll go on the subway and be like, all right, I want to go to this area today. And I'll go over there and kind of just walk around and just kind of look at people watch and kind of just, see what the sights are. And if I'm here by myself, it's just boring sitting in my apartment all day. But at the same time, I don't know, there's a lot to do, but I don't know exactly. I feel like I've done pretty much everything at this point. I've done a ton of stuff since I've been here.
Do the other Chinese players on the team ever try to take you out for the night? Do they ever try to bring you to like KTVs? I don't know if you've been to any karaoke joints.
I haven't been to any. I've heard of it several times. I've never been to a KTV place. I probably should do it at least once. I know I see them all over the place and I hear about it all the time.
I know, like, you're Mormon. Is there a Mormon community out here?
There actually is. Yes, okay. There is. So I've met several of the members of the church, and there's actually church services held here, which is cool. But it's definitely been very beneficial and helpful to me. A lot of them have been here for a while, and they've gotten me hooked up with different things, and go over to their homes and eat dinner for whatever different days, and just kind of have brought me in as like a member of their family with different families that have been here. So it's a nice feeling to be able to have that and to just go and just feel normal for the day, because a lot of the members of the church, they live in like actual homes, not just in like apartment buildings here. So it's nice to go to an actual home and sit down at a dinner table and eat some food.
Yeah,
and
like
have
there's
fun.
a lot of communities on like the outskirts of Shanghai where it's just straight up homes. Like you wouldn't even know you're in China.
No, for sure. You look like you're in the suburb of Chicago or something like that, which is really, really interesting and kind of a unique feeling, but it's cool.
So you've played with like a bunch of other foreign players out here.
Yes.
Have you bonded with them? Like Yabusele was on the team your first year. Yep. Like, would you guys ever hang out outside of the court?
Yeah, me and G, not quite as much. He was a great kid. He had his girlfriend here the whole time. They kind of did their own thing, but he was a great kid. I loved him. Yeah. And he was only 19 at the time.
Oh,
so
true.
He's super young and wanted to just kind of do his own thing, but we had a great relationship together. And Luis, I do hang out with Luis Scola off the court as well, but he has 4 kids, and his wife, and they all came over here for pretty much the whole time.
That's cool.
So it was a lot of fun, and his kids are really, really funny, really funny.
Do they live like near you, or?
Yeah, they just live just right down the block. They needed to find an apartment with 4 or 5 rooms in it. So I don't know if they have a ton of those in Shanghai, but they found something, and yeah, but it's not too far from here. He's just a great guy. He really is. Great teammate, good person, and family man, and just I've enjoyed playing with him.
When you were first thinking about playing out in China, did like Yao play a role in recruiting you to the Shanghai Sharks? Because that was back when he was the owner of the team.
Yeah, he did. He definitely did. He mentioned it to their coaching staff, and then the coaching staff came and watched me in summer league the one year before they picked me up. So then Yao spoke to me several times, but then I mostly spoke with Brian Gorgon, who was the associate head coach at the time. And he's an American guy from the U.S., and he went over and played in Australia, and then has been living actually in Australia for 30 years. But he been coaching in China now for 10 years. So he knew everything about it, made me feel comfortable, and made me feel like if I went there, I'd have someone that I'd feel comfortable with, that can be like, hey, if I have a problem or situation, he knows what to do and knows how to help me, which was really nice for me going over the first year, being like, yeah, that's nice to have. If I'm going to be in a situation, he knows how to help me. He knows where I'm coming from and all this stuff. So yeah, I spoke with quite a bit, and he just said, Shanghai's a great city. The people will love you. We have a perfect situation for you here. You can go in and just score and be yourself, and we just want you to come here and just help the team, become winning. And I was like, I think I can do that. So it worked out well. So your first 2 years on the team, you had an American coach? Yes.
And now you have a Chinese coach who can't speak English.
Yep.
That's got to be a weird transition.
For sure. In practice, Coach Gorgon, ran everything. So I understood everything, and the translator was for the Chinese guys. You know what I mean? So yeah. I understood everything. It was normal practice for me, you know what I mean? And it was great. But then now this year, everything's in Chinese. So now I got to listen to the translator, which is a little bit, it's a little different. You get used to it, but, you hear 2 voices at once. And you want to listen to Coach, because he's saying something, but you can't. You got to listen to the translator to figure out what he's saying. So a lot of times I'm just looking at the translator, which is kind of weird, but you don't want to be disrespectful not looking at people, but you're just trying to figure out what they're saying and everything. So it's a different dynamic, but you get used to it after a while.
Marbury, who was kind of like the poster child for the CBA before you came over, did he offer any sort of advice for playing out here when you first came out?
Not a ton. I have spoken with him a couple of times now since I've been in the CBA. I know that my agency spoke with his agency just to kind of talk about different things you could do for endorsements and, different types of stuff off the court.
Oh, yeah, because you've had loads of brands, loads of Chinese brands reach out to you, right?
I've had good things. I mean, Chinese brands and then also U.S. brands that want to get into China. And a lot of times that happens. They're like, oh, you're doing well over there. Let's see if we can, get you involved in our company that we're starting up and trying to, get bigger, or a company that's already existing that we need a little more notoriety for. So yeah, I've had some good success with that. But on the court, he hasn't really said too much. We've been playing against each other most of the time, so he probably doesn't want to give me too many tips, but
I was at that game when you guys got
in a little scuffle.
got in each other's face.
Yeah, for sure. And that went viral pretty quickly. And some of the comments were pretty funny, actually, that were on it afterwards. But
what actually happened there? What was the genesis of that?
So basically, I went up for a layup, and I was going up it was pretty, I was open at first, and he came out of nowhere and just kind of went to club down, fist full, closed, right down towards my face, and just hit me pretty hard with the ball in his fist, just right on my face. It was a pretty bad foul, you know what I mean? And it seemed like it was kind of intentional. He was a little bit frustrated at that point, I feel like. And so because of that, I was I just got upset, you know what I mean? Just in the spur of the moment, got upset, so I just pushed him. And then he came back into, my face, and we just kind of got into it a little bit right there. And then that was the end of it, basically. I mean, for me, it is the spur of the moment thing. It's not anything that you carry a grudge or anything like that. At least I don't, off the court or anything like that. But, if someone does something that I feel like is disrespectful or dirty or something at that point, I'm going to want to do something about it. You know what I mean? Just to show them I'm here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm not
for
going
sure.
to just take that. You know what I mean?
You just show him that he's in the Shark Tank.
Exactly. He's in the Shark Tank
your
right
home.
now. Exactly.
You got to tell him, welcome to the Shark Tank.
Yeah, right?
Welcome to the Shark Tank. This ain't the duck pond.
We have a weird relationship because when you're playing in a small court like where Shanghai plays, if you're like yelling at someone from the sidelines, they can hear you pretty well.
For sure.
It's not like in the NBA, whenever you try to yell at someone, just gets lost in the crowd.
course.
So I used to heckle them a bit just because I see the Beijing Ducks as like the Sharks' main rival.
For sure. They're a big
And
rival.
yeah, one time like he turned around and said something to me that I caught on tape. Welcome to the Shark Tank, Stefan. I'm rooting for the Sharks.
Oh, yeah.
And then like put that in the video, and then that was like went semi-viral. So
Oh, funny.
so then anytime I would start talking shit, he would just kind of put a towel over his head and completely
try to not worry about
just
it.
try to
he doesn't
ignore
wanna
me
be
because
viral again.
yeah, he's like, if I turn around and say something, it's going to end up on social media.
For sure.
Luckily, when you play in Shanghai, no one's like trying to get in your
Exactly.
head and stuff.
Yeah. Most of the places that I go, there's not many foreigners in the stands.
Yeah.
So this Shanghai by far has the most foreigners in the stands. And if there is a foreigner in the stand in another city, most of the time they're a member of our church.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So they're like positive towards me. You know what I mean? So I haven't heard like a whole lot of negative things towards me that I understand. I'm sure there's several of them everywhere that we go, but
Yeah.
I don't understand them, so it doesn't really bother me.
When you dropped your shoe brand, right?
Yeah.
You were working with a Chinese shoe company?
Yeah,
I had
still.
like loads of friends back in the U.S. being like, you need to get me a pair of
I
these.
know.
Are they still for sale? Can I still go out and find them?
You can go out and buy them right now. Yep,
Okay.
at 361 stores or just online. But you can't buy it from the U.S. You got to buy it from here
Yeah.
in China. That's the problem.
You should talk to them about that. I think if you could sell some in the U.S., they would sell.
I've spoke to them for the last 3 years trying to get them to sell them in the U.S.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't. You know, sometimes they do business differently over here than they do in the U.S.
Maybe Marbury is behind the snes pulling some strings,
Yeah,
trying to
he's
get
like-
them blocked in the U.S.
Yeah,
'cause he
he's
doesn't
like,
want
wait a
them to
second,
compete
no.
with Starberry.
Yeah, he's like, we don't want that. We don't need that over in the U.S. right now.
So this season is like almost over, although hopefully we do make the playoffs. We
Yeah.
have a game on Wednesday.
Yep.
What do you have planned for your the next phase of your basketball career? Are you thinking about trying to make a return to the NBA?
You know, I hope so. You know, that's I think what the goal is. But you know, you never know exactly what's going to happen. You never know the situation that's going to come moving forward. But I've had such a great 3 years here already. I want to finish this season out strong, and then from there I can kind of decide what I feel like is best for myself and for my family. But you know, I'd love to be able to be back in the U.S. to just live with my family, my wife, and my kids now that are gonna. You know, I have a baby boy that's coming.
Oh, wow.
At
Congratulations.
the beginning of April-ish. So in another 3 or 4 weeks, and I want to be able to be there with them and see them develop and grow. And I've missed quite a bit of some of Wesley's development.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I see it on FaceTime and stuff, but it's just not the same. So I hope to be able to be back and be able to be with them and playing back in the NBA. But if you know, if there isn't a circumstance here that I feel like is better, then maybe I'll be back here. But
you think
we'll
you're going to
see.
at least take one season off from playing out here in China?
I'm not positive, not necessarily, you know
Okay.
what I mean? But I hope that's the plan. You know, hopefully I'll be able to find something for at least this next year and get back and, you know, kind of show what I can do again and see how that goes and take one more shot at this, you know, the NBA and see where it goes from there. But you never, like I said, you never really know what happens.
We'd love to see you back in the NBA. I feel like you could kind of be Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight Rises,
There you
where
go.
like he breaks his back and then he goes to a prison overseas
For
and
sure.
then learns some valuable lessons.
Exactly.
And then comes back to take over Gotham again, but you'd be taking over the NBA. And I guess Bane would be LeBron James or something.
There you
like
go.
that.
Yeah, someone like that. I mean, that sounds good to me. I mean, that sounds like a perfect analogy. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Have you started to talk with some teams back in the U.S.?
We definitely have had interest. You know, my agent has talked with you know, some teams. But nothing crazy at this point. Obviously we're still in the season, and next year is quite a bit away. You never know what's going to happen with a lot of these team situations between now and next year, especially with draft and then free agency and all these different things. So, he's always talking with teams all the time, no matter what, just seeing level of interest and everything. But, hopefully we can find something good.
Yeah, well, let's focus on the Sharks winning a CBA championship first.
That's exactly right.
I mean, this could be a Cinderella story if we're like the last team into the playoffs.
For sure.
And then we go all the way.
Come in hot and then just make a run. That would be great.
So playing these 3 years out in China, which part of your game do you think improved the most?
For me, for sure, playing off the ball and being able to catch and shoot and do it really well at a high level. When I came out of college, I didn't really play off the ball very much. I was always on the ball, dribbling into my shots, doing different things off of pick and roll. Since I've been in China, I've had an opportunity to really work on playing off the ball a lot and working on my catching and shooting and working on playing and moving without the basketball and still being effective, which is something that is important for me in the next, for the time that if I do make it back to the NBA, that's what, the game is now. You got to be able to move off the ball. You got to be able to catch and shoot it as well as be able to play on the ball. You got to be able to kind of do both. And me adding that phase of my game to a high level, I think makes me a real asset for a team. So, that's something that I've really focused on and gotten better at. And then I think that I've continued to just grow as a basketball player, mentally smarter. I feel like I'm in good shape and better defensively and doing, all the things that I need to and to try to get back and see what I can do. There's
so much focus on the 3-point shot in the NBA these days too. So I feel like you could thrive in that sort of environment.
Yeah, it's kind of like since I've been out of the NBA, it's more gone to the way that I play the game more now than ever.
Yeah.
When I first came into the NBA, it wasn't even nearly what it is now. The 3-point shot was still, it was an asset, but it wasn't like the total part of the game that it is now. I mean, some teams literally just try to shoot threes and layups and free throws, and that's what I've been doing most of my career.
Yeah.
And now I feel like so many people are doing that. So many teams are trying to go that way that I feel like my skill set really plays well into that now, so more than ever. So good time for it.
And like when you play out in China, you're usually getting double teamed, triple teamed.
For sure.
And, at least in the NBA, you probably wouldn't have to like worry about that.
For sure.
First, so.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, most of the time, it's hard to double team a guy because so many guys are so good. You know what I mean? Like you get open shots and then you got to knock them down. So if, there's a great player on my team that commands a double team, I think that's a perfect situation for me to get an open shot would be something I haven't gotten in about 3 years. So
the Sharks have a lot of great players, but I feel like when it comes to scoring, they kind of like focus the offense on you.
For sure. That's kind of my role, to score the basketball for the team, you know what I mean? And get other guys involved. There's some guys that can shoot and play well, but you never know which guy it's going to be on our team.
Do you know why the guy with the ponytail was traded? I think he was on the team your first year.
Ding.
Yes.
Yeah, Ding. So Ding, he didn't get traded. He was a free agent after last year. And he decided, they weren't going to give him as much money as he wanted. But he had been in Shanghai for years.
Yeah, I know.
Years and years. And he loved it.
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, baby!
What do they put in the water in Taiwan, right? Jeremy Lin, then the ponytail guy? Jesus Christ.
But yeah, they definitely rely on me to score a lot, and so the teams really focus on me defensively for sure.
Like in the game where you scored 75 points, but the Sharks lost. Like, were you more just like happy you scored 75, or were you kind of like, oh come on, we still lost?
Yeah, it was a crazy game. I mean, I was exhausted after that game, like mentally and physically. I had never felt like that after a game before because I had put so much effort into it. Like we had come back from like a 15 points down in the fourth quarter, and we came back, and it was necessary. Like I needed to score those points to give us a chance, and then I hit a game go-ahead shot with like 5 seconds left to put us up 2, and then they came down and hit a 3 to win it.
Oh man,
So
that's brutal.
yeah, and at the buzzard, and then I was just drained. I was like, man, we did all this, and I had a great game, and things were good, and we lost. So it was, I mean, obviously it was fun. It was an amazing game. It was so much fun, and something I'll never forget, scoring that many points and everything. But to lose at that moment was devastating. I was like, man, that sucks.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of it is like you get on a roll and you just go, and a lot of times it's because your team is losing. So you're like, all right, you know what? I just want to feel like I need to take over at this point and try to get us back into it, so that you start doing that, and then all of a sudden you start feeling really good, and the ball just is dropping. You're going in, it's going in, it's going in, while the other team is still hot or still doing well, but you're still slowly getting it back, and that's sometimes you just catch on fire, and then sometimes it's not enough, but sometimes that's why, because you're trying to get back into it.
For current NBA players who might be towards the end of their career and are looking to play in China, do you have any sort of advice for them?
I would say do it. I would say get the experience, come out here, see what it's like. And obviously, if they come out here and play, the Chinese fans will love them, and even more. You know what I mean? And if you're looking for another market, to maybe do some different things off the court, maybe be an ambassador at some point, a global brand ambassador, whatever it is, I would encourage them to take a year after they're done and come out here and play, just because it means a lot more to the Chinese people when they come and they see you and you actually want to be a part of their culture. To them, they'll follow you for the rest of your career, even more so, just because they know that you wanted to be a part of their culture. So I would say, if they're looking for more fans and looking for opportunities off the floor and on the floor, I think that's a great thing to do.
Does the Shark Tank on a big night when it's packed, can it ever match what it was like playing back in your March Madness days?
It's difficult because the arenas are so much bigger in the March Madness place. Yeah,
I think we get 4,000 people.
Yeah, it's 4,000 or 5,000 when it's packed. It's around somewhere around there. And actually, it gets really loud. I've had some games that I've been like, wow, it's actually really loud in here.
MVP, 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 MVP.
Yeah,
and gets pretty rowdy.
Fuck the Ducks! Fuck the Ducks!
And most of the time when you go to Chinese games, the people are a little bit more reserved. They're not quite as loud and in your face as some of the especially college. The college kids, they chant and they have you know what I mean, they have all their stuff going on. So it's rumbling with some of the games that I've been in.
Are the Sharks
college.
one of the louder atmospheres, at least in the CBA?
It is for sure.
Okay,
when
nice.
it's a loud Sharks game, it's about as loud as it gets.
And there has to be some games you play that's just very quiet.
For sure. There's some games that are, very, very, very little fans in the stadium, especially when we play at some of these really big, nice new stadiums. Nanjing has a beautiful new stadium that they're using for, the World Cup coming up. And it's outside of the city, or Shenzhen or something like that. And it's outside of the city 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So you don't get a ton of people to go out there, but we play in these arenas because they're brand new and they're trying to break them in and see how they are. And you go there and there's, not many people in the stands. So it's like a scrimmage almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there's some of them that are really, really good, really packed and good crowds. So you never know.
Yeah. I mean, I can even remember in Shanghai, it's the largest city in China. Basketball is one of the most popular sports in China, but it used to always only be half full. And I feel like Jimmer Mania out here kind of started packing the place out again.
For sure, yeah. Once that first year, first couple of games, there weren't many people there. And then we played Guangdong, one of my first games, and we won. And we hadn't beat Guangdong in forever. And we won, and I had 50 points, and things were going well, and we started off the season really well, and people were like, wow, I think we're really good this year. And then from that point on, for the last 3 years, we've had really good crowds.
Yeah, I mean, it is true that people here do love you. When you're just walking around the streets, will a lot of Chinese fans recognize you and be like, oh, it's the Lonely Master?
For sure. I definitely get people coming up to me and, Jimo, or, saying that, or every once in a while they'll say Jimo Dashin or whatever it is that they say for my nickname. And, so it's good. I mean, there's so many people in the city that, half of the people just walk by and have no idea who you are. Yeah. But then there's the other half are like, oh, I know who you are. You know what I mean?
That's a pro of not being 7 foot tall.
Exactly.
Like you see a 7 foot
Like,
tall guy, you're like, oh my God, he's probably
doing
a pro
something.
basketball player.
Yeah, he does something. So it's super nice for me because I'm just a normal size,
Yeah.
normal looking person, normal looking expat in the community. So if they don't really take a really good look at me, or if I have my hood up or anything, there's like no chance.
My friend was saying when he saw you took the subway to a game that you were walking into the game and the security guard there was like, wait, who are you? Like,
Yeah,
do
for
you have
sure.
an ID? And you're like, yeah, here's my pass.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like,
I've
kind of a big deal around
I've had to incur that many times.
Yeah.
But the security guard that works there now, every time he's good with me now.
Okay,
he knows
yeah.
who I am now. But the funny part that is when I come up the subway to the stadium, I come up the escalators and there's always probably like 5 or 6 scalpers right there. And
Yeah.
every single time they're always like, oh, you want ticket? You need ticket? You need ticket? And I'm like, no, I'm playing. I'm good. And they have no idea who I am. And it's funny because I'm like, they probably have never been in the stadium. They're just trying to sell the tickets
Yeah.
to
And I
actually
think they have a
watch
very
a
like
game.
stereotypical view of like what a professional basketball player
For
looks
sure.
like. And they just
100%.
have,
They're like, that's not you. So
Yeah.
you're going to the game. Do you need a ticket?
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny.
Have you had any like very strange fan interactions?
There was one time when I was on the subway, the metro, and I was probably like 5 or 6 stops away from my place, just getting on, and
Yeah.
I was going to go home. And all of a sudden this girl comes up out of nowhere and just comes up to me and like comes and says, hey, Jimmer, I love you. You know what I mean? I watch all your games. And she gave me a gift. Like she had the gift on hand. Wanting
wow.
to give that to me, and I'm like, how did you know where I was? How did you know that I was gonna, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
she followed me. I don't know if she just kept it and in the case that she actually saw me at some point or
What was the
something like
gift?
that. It was like a little bracelet for my daughter.
Oh, okay.
Wesley. So I mean, it was very thoughtful of her, and it was funny, but it was just like random that she had the gift on hand, and I wasn't
Yeah.
home, I wasn't at the game, I wasn't anywhere, I was just in the middle of the city, not doing anything, and
may
then
have
she
been
came out of nowhere.
following you
Yeah,
for like
she
weeks.
must have been or something. Yeah, weeks exactly. So, but that was like kind of random.
All right. Well, Jimmer, thanks a lot.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching your show. It's funny.
Cool. Well, I'll see you at the game on Wednesday.
All right, sounds good.
Can I get a Let's Go Sharks on the mic?
Yeah, let's go Sharks.
Love it.
No problem. Thanks.
Let's go Sharks.
Let's do it.